It's time for the Grand Finals of the Wardi Championship, a $7,500 tournament that all comes down to one best of 7. It's time for a Zerg versus Protoss. We're in the bottom right-hand corner. Game number 1, playing in blue, we have none other than Classic, taking down, well, Mr. Clem, making it to the Grand Finals from the lower bracket because he got knocked down there. Because of this player right over here in the top left. Taking down Classic 3-2 in the upper bracket finals. We're looking inside of the main base of Shin. So, let's see if Classic has made any adjustments. Now, admittedly, I didn't see the upper bracket finals, but I am sure that Shin did go for a bunch of Mutalisks. So lately, every single time that I see Shin play, he decides to open up Mutas. I want to say 9 out of 10 games. Against Zerg, against Terran, and then also against Protoss. He's loving the Mutalisk right now. And I can imagine that Classic, he may have gotten caught off guard a couple of times. Most of the time when I see Classic win against Zerg lately, it is off of the back of Skytos. So he's a very macro-oriented player. He does mix in a little bit of variety here and there. But across the board, it's usually the late game where Classic seems to shine. Now, we are starting off on 10,000 feet. This map is excellent. It's actually probably my... Yeah, I'm going to say it. I think it may be my personal favorite. I do like Mothership, but I think balance-wise, that one is a little bit more tricky. But 10,000 feet just always seems to deliver stellar games. It's a little bit funky with that forward third base. You obviously can mine out these skinny mineral fields quite easily as well if you want to. Now, what's quite interesting is that lately... When this map was first introduced, players would mine out these mineral fields really quickly, but lately it seems like nobody's really getting this until like maybe a 6th, sometimes even a 7th base. We'll have to see if maybe the players here decide to mix it up, but already Shin is opting to go for the horizontal expansion, and he's probably going to save this mineral line over here, well, for a rainy day, which may arrive in like 10-15 minutes or so. But for now, he is opting to go for the more easily accessible one. A lot of Protoss players actually do opt to go either for like the horizontal expansion, obviously the mirrored one right here, for Classic, or the forward one instead. Now the forward one is very funky because it just feels so exposed. This is on the same leveled playing field here, so there's only a little river. There are some siege units in StarCraft that can actually just hit from right over there into the mineral line. You create some problems. Now, sorry, I'm just curious. Was there anything else said? Lag? Ah! Period. Ready? Ready. All right, excellent. Sadly, with the way that StarCraft 2 is made, obviously the engine for StarCraft was probably made in like 2008, 2009 or so. The games are not actually hosted online by the server or whatever. If you are, say, like just a referee or an observer to the game, you're just watching the pro gamers play. Say you're another commentator. If you have bad internet, the players themselves will also lag in-game. So usually when there's some sort of lag spike, it is to do with the internet, right? And if it's one of the players or one of the commentators, and for a series like this, it's not uncommon to have like 5, 6, maybe even more observers in the in-game lobby before the games even begin. It is sometimes one of those that ends up lagging out or that ends up making the games a little bit more tricky. Because obviously for a match like this, we'll have casters from, well, all over the planet. The players located in Korea. The tournament hosted from England. And then we probably have some French commentators, some Polish commentators, maybe some Russian right? There's a lot of different communities out there. Anyways, the Oracle harassment has begun. 2 drones for the time being. Nothing all too crazy. Classic decided to save them up for a little bit, accumulate some more energy. He will be opting, though, for, yeah, the triple Oracle start. So, extremely conventional, really nothing here out of the ordinary whatsoever. He's bringing that little group of adepts online as well, hoping that maybe he can sneak around the site. But, of course, that Overlord is going to give at least a heads up for Shin that he needs to start making links. He's a little late with those. He does have 8 for the time being and a bunch of queens in position, too. I think this is fine for Shin. Yeah. Links obviously spawn pretty quickly. Oh, he activated the pulsar beam right away. Drones are already fired up again, though. Queens are trying to get within range, and now with them body blocking some of this as well. Excellent defense here from Shin. A little bit messy across the board here for Classic. Probably should have used those oracles a little bit more. That ultimately comes down to 5 dead adepts and then a bunch of Zerglings too. Not the end of the world. Looks like we have some stasis ward attempts over here. That little drone that just finally woke up out of its coma immediately gets put back in. Maybe that was like some sort of medical necessity. I don't know, dude. Alright, in the meantime, Templar Archives together with Forge inside of the main base and a follow-up of good old Blink. Fourth hatchery building up here for Shin. Lair, not by any means the fastest one, but still respectable. I wonder if he's even gonna go for Mutas in this particular setup. I think he probably is. There's no Roach Warren. We do have a Baneling Nest, and obviously Mutaling Bane is a bit of a classic. +1 melee, also a nice indication that maybe Mutas are indeed on the table. Lair is done. What do we do, Shin? Yep. I swear, like 80% of the games that Shin is playing at the moment, there is going to be a Spire coming online as soon as he hits the Lair. It's very fun, but also something that a lot of Zerg players are still trying to avoid. Now, Shin has seen that these Stalkers actually don't have an attack upgrade. He must have clicked on one of them, which is usually an indication that Protoss isn't super committed to the Stalker build. As a matter of fact, we already do indeed have that follow-up right here with Storm, so Zerglings decide to go across the map. Stalkers do get caught out in the middle of nowhere, but they are going to get recalled back towards the natural expansion. And now the droning for the fourth will begin, and immediately, Shin takes the gases. The norm is to delay the gases until the mineral line is fully saturated. Since he's going Mutas, though, they are 100 Vespene and 100 minerals each. Well, he needs to get it going sooner rather than later. And at this point, I think Classic has no idea about it. Where is it? Ah, it's right over here. Classic, yeah, has not seen this third hatch in a little while. This may have been the location where he planted a bunch of stasis wards, and maybe the oracles can throw a revelation down, but 12 mutas are coming up, and if they go up entirely unscouted, life is complex. Now, Classic, he has played against Shin. They faced against each other in the upper bracket finals. Second Stargate goes down blind, Phoenix production begins, and Classic is, well, building a photon cannon in every single one of his mineral lines. So even though he doesn't know, even though he hasn't scouted it, he is very much so playing the player rather than the matchup. Corruptors on the Beckett is right now, because Shin has seen, of course, that there is a Phoenix out. So Oracles are not going to be able to make it home. They're going to be the confirmation that indeed Mutas are already flapping around. And now we end up with a very weird unit composition here for Shin. We never really see this. It's going to be Mutas and Corruptors. The dancing, though, will begin. Mutas are fast, but the problem is they cannot move and shoot like Phoenixes can. Phoenixes can do both of those things at the same time. And on the back of this right now for Classic, he's actually going into the Fleet Beacon. There's an upgrade in the Fleet Beacon called the Anion Pulse Crystals. Very uncommon for this matchup, honestly very uncommon in general. But it increases the range, the attack range of the Phoenixes. Nice Storm over here. Excellent defense by Classic thus far. Yeah, we honestly never really see Phoenixes in this matchup anyways. Now, of course, now the Corruptors are here. The Corruptors are serving as a tank for the rest of the party. I kind of love it. Stalkers are going to be needed. Backing up, though, to the safety of the shield batteries. Nice target firing here by Shin, but he's just not really achieving very much. I think that Storm was dealing about as much damage here to the Protoss units as the entirety of the Zerg army has. Okay. 3 Phoenixes have died, 6 Mutas, 4 Corruptors. Excellent situation here as we have a double Infestation Pit going up for Shin. He's clearly not, entirely, he's obviously busy microing here, but he's certainly not happy with the way that this is going. Baneling speed starts up on the back of this. We've now got +1 missile. There's the Hive. Double Infestation Pit doesn't really benefit you anything. And there it is. Annual Pulse Crystals. Kinda crazy. Classic is now going Mass Phoenix with ranged against Zerg. Now, if you've been watching for some time, you know that I'm a sucker for Phoenix builds. I think Phoenix builds are phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal to watch, phenomenal to play. Generally speaking, maybe like C tier in StarCraft 2 at best. Especially against Zerg. They may not even be C tier. They may be lower than that. But they are just such a cool unit. Yeah, And I don't think this is working out for Shin whatsoever. Now, of course, what Shin does have is a really stellar economy. And he's able to do whatever he likes. So I do believe we're going to be seeing a transition away from this Mutaling Bane type of army. Although I say that, maybe I spoke too soon. He's adding on loads and loads of Banelings. I was thinking maybe a Lurker follow-up would make sense, but instead we have a Hydra Den here together with an Evo Chamber. Okay. Is that an Ultra Cavern? Oh, okay. Wait, he's going Ultras without Carapace upgrades? Okay. I think this is where the Gen Zers say, let him cook. Although I think the cooking here is with spoiled meat and the vegetables are old and stale. Because Ultras already die so quick. And at this point, Classic is just chasing it down. He has been behind in the supply count for ages. But he's got far better units than the Zerg does at this point in time. And I wonder if the cooker is getting cooked. No? Am I doing this right? It's 2026. I need to appeal to everybody, right? For real, like low-key, 6-7, something. I don't know. All right. Mama Ship coming up. Tempests added into the mix. +1 air. Also researching here for Classic, who just seems to be bullying Shin thus far. And we are, by the way, now headed to that late game. Right now, Banelings get lifted up into the air. The storms do go down. The Zealots are disjointed. Archons are underneath. Shin decides to crash into this army. That was an extremely expensive set of units, expensive set of units, rather, for the Zerg player to lose. And I don't really think it was very successful at all. Classic, of course, did take a bit of a nosedive here, too. Now, you can tell that the army size is by no means bad for Shin, but it's mostly because he can remax a bit quicker. He's had a superior economy by at least a small margin, but I don't think we can really say that Classic's income here is bad. Double Robo on the back of this, building up to 3. Mama's gonna be out in just a moment. And we're going from, like, a Stalker Phoenix mid-game into a proper Skytles late game. Now, if you ever want to see Ultralisks die real quick, I hope that we're gonna see Immortals fight against unupgraded Ultras. They're gonna see, I guess, okay, they're gonna see the chitinous plating research, so that's nice. That's gonna give them a little bit more bulk. But you really need to get these upgrades done, and they just take forever. There's no way to speed it up for Zerg, no chrono boost or anything along those lines available. Shin is going to effectively start the Carapace upgrades at like minute 12 and a half or so. It's gonna take him until at least like 17, I think, to get up to +3. And I see basically no world where Classic is gonna sit back for that long. Classic now finishing up his own +3 attacks. This is a banger of an army already for Classic, and it's not even maxed yet. Oh, yeah, we actually engaged this with Zerg? There ain't no way. Those Ultras are just gonna pop! Look at the Immortals go. There's not even that many. How many are there? There's just one. There's just one. The one Immortal here is destroying the Ultralisks as it is. What about the rest of the Zerg army? It also is not getting much done. Finally, by the way, the new Immortal production has kicked in. Yeah, honestly, if you are playing Ultras and you don't already have Carapace upgrades going, I think you should skip them. It just there's no point. I really don't see. I see the Zerg players attempt this all the time, but this is the reason why usually if you have to go for only one upgrade early on, you prioritize Carapace, so at least Ultras are an option in the late game. But right now it's gonna take forever. Classic has got 5 bases worth of eco. He's getting the +2 air weapons. Charge is finally finishing. Now, admittedly, that one is very late. But he's rounding out his unit composition with some additional Archons, some additional Immortals, and soon he'll be ready to go. Calm and collected in classic fashion. Zergling Distraction is nice, though. Ultra's going back in for more. There are a lot of High Templar in the front. That's not where you guys are supposed to be. Oi, oi, oi. That is probably the worst fight Classic could take with an army like this. Zergling's going back in for more. A bunch of Zealots waiting, though, together with an Archon. He just lost all the High Templar. That's going to take forever to get the energy back. Okay. Shin getting a bit lucky there. It's something. But Shin is kind of playing like his credit card limit doesn't exist, you know? Like, he He has got 0 minerals now, and he's not even up to 200 supply. Ultraling Bane, Muta, some Corruptors. It's great when you have an insane bank. And preferably good upgrades as well. He's even skipping out on the +2 now. Fair enough. Okay, this I like better. Yeah, I think this is a better choice. Shin once more, switching things up entirely. I think the next goal is to try and get Infestors going with Neural Parasite and take control of that Protoss army. Now, I think Classic's original plan was to go marching right about right now. Problem is he lost those Templar, so he's chilling. For Classic, there's like no urgency. There's very little reason here why Classic would already go. This is an army composition from Protoss that is good against all things Zerg. Now, of course, if you can maybe take a dozen or so Zerg Infestors and control the Protoss army. Can we get a Revelation, Classic? Whoa. What? He just recalled the units towards the mothership that were already here. I think what he meant to do is click the Oracle and use Revelation, but there must have been a hotkey overlap with the recall ability on the mothership and the Oracle itself. Dude, I love watching top-level Protoss, Zerg, and Terra players sometimes. There seems to be this level of refinement that is sometimes lacking from the top-level Protosses. What was that, man? We just lead the army with a bunch of High Templar, and then we recall the units that are already underneath the mothership? No defense here, no photon cannons at all. I'm a little surprised by that, too. This base was already under threat. It's the obvious next line of attack. But this Protoss army... Look, mistakes or not, the macro has been superb from Classic. And ultimately, he got up to a unit composition that is phenomenal. At this point, the only chance that Shin has is Neural Parasites. Now, there is an observer nearby, but Classic doesn't know. This is the first time Classic sees it. He's trying to take control of the Immortals so that the Ultralisks can actually do something. I think that's about the best fight. Okay, that Zerg could ever take, but it's not even remotely good enough. GG gets called as Classic wins game number 1. Now, it's an uncommon interaction and one we haven't really seen much yet on the new StarCraft patch. But did you know that the new Storm is better against Neural Parasite? Yeah, since the Infestors are stationary, you can just storm all of them, and obviously Zerg can't micro out of it. Your only way to micro out of it with an Infestor is if you... Well, if you cancel the Neural Parasite, and then you move again, but there's no other way to get the job done. There's a little bit more range as well in the Templar, so I think it's actually just straight up better. Yeah. Anyhow, that was an army that is pretty much impossible for Zerg to stop as it is, unless you have a insane amount of static defense, right? So we see the likes of Serral, for example, deal with Skytle's armies quite well, but usually that's off of the back of like 50 Spore Crawlers and a whole lot of static defense and, well, just a very different setup altogether. Rarely do we see guys like Serral, or at least I haven't seen Serral play much, but rarely see we, at least historically, throw away a bunch of Ultraling Bane and hope for the best. Great counter, though, by Classic, right? So I feel like the key in that previous game was him sniffing out that it was Mutas. He hadn't seen the Spire. He hadn't really noticed much. Maybe he saw the gases over at the 4th base, and he thought, okay, this is a clear follow-up with Mutas yet again. But Shin has been playing Mutas in the majority of his games lately. They faced against each other, like I said, in the upper bracket finals, and Shin knocked Classic down to the lower bracket in that particular match. So you may as well begin a couple Phoenixes, right? Like, worst case scenario, I guess, for Protoss is you have a few Phoenixes. Phoenixes aren't particularly useful if you aren't countering Mutas with them or lifting up drones. But if you want to lift up drones, you kind of need to make a lot. And in the mid game, that just doesn't really make a lot of sense. But Classic sniffed it out perfectly, anticipating Muta play there from Shin. And from there, the game kind of felt like it was on rails. We saw some mistakes. The High Templar walking into Banelings the recall from the mothership to watch the mothership, but obviously that doesn't do much. The fact that he did not know about the infestors at all also made the game harder than it needed to be. But the key was already, well, the key of that game, right? The Phoenix build, it was already solved. So I wonder if Shin is going to be following this up with Mutas yet again. We do see a little bit of Oracle harassment yet again. A pretty fast third Nexus here too. Overlord Scout is going to see this. It's a Twilight Council together with a Forge. Extremely normal, but Classic mixing it up. Rather than going Blink, we go into Charge first. Now to clarify, if you look at a Stargate as a Zerg player, you can see what's being produced. But Shin cannot see whether or not this is Charge or whether it's Blink or Glaive the Depths or anything along those lines. And that's one of the key parts about the Twilight Council. If it would tell you what's being researched and what the follow-up for Protoss is going to be, it would be very mediocre. But let's think about this right from the Zerg's point of view right now. What are the options? There are a lot. Glaive the Depths could be an all-in, could be a macro play, right? Blink Stalkers could be an all-in, could be a macro play. Zealots could be an all-in, could be a macro play. Could be Archon drops, that's always a macro play. Could be a Dark Templar follow-up. That is a, well, macro play or an all-in as well. So, point is, even if you see the Twilight Council with the Void Ray, or with the Overlord Scout rather here, there are still about a dozen viable strategies for Protoss. Oh, he gets the kill on the 4th. That's really nice for Classic. Yeah, there's still so many options that it's difficult for Shin to figure out exactly what it is that he's playing against. Now, what we are playing against is an 8-gate Archon Zealot all-in-ish. It doesn't really have to be a complete win, but he needs to deal critical amounts of damage. Recalls are going to be used right now onto those oracles, and they will keep this mineral life or this mineral line alive. There is a robo facility. We have a prism already out. Archons are moving in. I would love to see an observer as well, actually. I'm a little bit surprised we haven't yet. Oracles need to activate the pulsar beam yet again with the Zerglings committing. But I think we're going to go for a big warp in. There it is. We have 8 gateways. Why are we warping in 7 zealots? Maybe it's on cooldown. Maybe you had to warp in one at home. All right. This is Hydra Ling for now, though, for Shin. Shin skipping out on both the Roach Warren as well as the Baneling Nest. Oh, he wants to save the Archon. Honestly, great zoning here by Shin. Losing that 4th hatchery, though, getting that slowed down, really does make the game way harder. Now, what's the follow-up going to be for Shin? Oh, I was looking for a Baneling Nest, a Lurker Den, maybe a quick Hive. No, it's a Spire. Shin is going to go Mutas again. But now he's going to go Mutas in such a weird order that Classic is definitely not gonna expect it. Are Mutas even good when you get them at a delayed point? Like, are they... Like, normally you show up at Mutas and Blink is done, right? Now, obviously, we will probably have Blink done at some point in the future, but at least it's Charge first. He knows that. But now he's going to show up with Mutas by the time Storm is done, by the time that Archons are going to be out on the battlefield. Classic probably thinks that this is a Hydraling Bane follow-up, but it's Hydraling Bane without Banes. So it's Mutaling Hydra. Mutaling... It sounds uncomfortable to say those words out loud in that order, and it's because it's bad. Classic, though, is on the run. There's 1,100 gas available. Oh, here we go. Oh, no, he hit a supply block. Well, he's got some Mutas coming. It's okay. Shin doesn't actually want to fight. Like, Shin is doing a really good job. Maybe give this Hydra Ling army an Oscar or something. Give them... Because they're doing a really good job acting. Now Classic finally realizes that this is all a little bit fishy. Why is this Zerg army engaging and then disengaging and then engaging again but then disengaging? Mutas are going to be out in just a moment. These High Templar, though, they need to be killed ASAP. If Shin cannot snipe them, I think this is over. Okay, preemptive storms immediately targets them down with the Mutalisks. Archon's underneath, though. For the time being, this is okay. Problem is, not a ton of anti-air, but Archons do murder any clumped up unit. So Mutas included. There we go. Thank you for showcasing that. This is a weird army, though, to be fighting Mutaling Hydra with. The problem is that this is a tried and true strategy for Protoss. Phoenix production starts up right now. Prism is getting targeted and will go down. But aren't there just way too many ground units left over here for Classic? It's a cool attempt from Shin, but he just doesn't have enough stuff. Next up, we find ourselves on the map Ruby Rock. I think, Shin, that we need to go Mutas again. But listen, now we go 2 base Mutas rather than 3. So on 3 bases, it didn't really work, right? We had like a 4 base Muta in game number 2, although the 4th base was kind of a fake out as well. Surely, if we do it on 2 bases, it's gonna work out much better. Actually, scratch that. I think we should probably skip Mutas. Yeah, as much as I like Mutalisks, they are just not good in straight up fights. Honestly, I think they're just not really that good in general. It's interesting. Like, there's a bunch of units in StarCraft 2 that are on the verge of being overpowered. And if you buff them in almost any way, they become horribly oppressive. And Mutas are one of them. But as they are right now, they feel extremely flimsy. In the games where Mutas win, though, they seem pretty broken, right? But then in the games where the opponent figures out what is going on, usually they just don't seem nearly as good. They're great for harassment. They're great for containing the opponent, but they really suck at fighting. So as soon as you need to use Mutas in a straight-up engagement, it just doesn't seem to work. Swarmos are another example of a unit that feels very similar to me. Where in theory the unit is great, in reality it's kind of mediocre. But in the games where they work well, they seem kind of insane. Do you think it'd be fair to give a little bit of love to Mutalisks? Like maybe remove the rapid regeneration passive that they have, so they regen really quickly out of combat, but just give them some additional base health? Would that be broken? Would that be stupid? I don't know. But they do feel like a weird unit, especially compared to like their Brood War counterpart. They're a lot more menacing in StarCraft 1. Anyways, let's see. Oracles are going to be flipping around the map again. I think that's actually one of the keys for pretty much all the Protoss unit out there. The Zerg army is very hyper-specialized. The Protoss units are a lot more jack-of-all-trade type of approach, and maybe in lore that would make a lot of sense. But a lot of the Protoss units do feel a little bit too well-rounded to me at the moment, where none of them really, like, you can't really go wrong. There's like a bunch of go-to unit compositions that are just always good. Anyhow, quick robo follow-up here for Classic. Charge yet again. Charge with +1. Roach Warren this time for Shin. Lair fired up at about the normal time. Skipping out on the evolution chamber for the time being. So in the previous games, he always focused on those right away. Shin really loving the Muta, whereas pretty much all the other top dogs for Zerg don't. Zerg is actually doing quite well, right? I mean, this is a grand finals of a big StarCraft tournament. Even though a lot of StarCraft players are complaining about the Ghost and maybe Terran in general with all of the different varieties and yada yada yada. But hey, this is a very big tournament finals, and I don't see a Terran in the finals anywhere. The last one got eliminated by Classic. Quick roaches here for Shin. This is a curious one. Storm on the Beckett is here for Classic as well, yet again. So not just focusing on Archons, not just focusing on Zealots here. So this is a good variety, right? So in the previous game, we had an 8-gate Zealot push. Now we just have 4 gates and a heavy focus on Robo and Storm instead. So even though this is almost identical for Shin to Scout, it's a very different strategy. So this is a more macro-oriented game thus far. I wonder what Shin wants to do, though, because it feels to me like he has got a plan. Yeah. So we're going Pneumatized Carapace, that's Overlord speed. And that probably means he wants to send the queens in their private jets and go for a big Roach Ravager Ling attack. Bring the swarm across the map and try to see if Protoss can deal with it. Now, a key to the defense will be this. Classic doesn't yet know what he's playing against. He's even thinking about building up a 4th Nexus, which is not what he needs at all. If you look at the work account right now. Yeah, this is, look at the last thing that Classic needs. He really just needs to stop this push and counterattack. I think that's the goal, but now he will notice, okay, this Protoss army, or this Zerg army rather, is looking pretty ambitious. Cancel on the Nexus. Static Defense is going to be starting up instead. Great first storm. Second storm, not bad either. Third storm, also not bad. Fourth storm, yeah, we can work with that, but the problem is there enough Protoss to actually deal with all of this? There will be more and more Zerg units streaming across the map. Classic only on... Actually, no, he's got 8 gateways now. Nice for him that he added a bunch more in the mix. I was a little afraid he only still had 4. Not as greedy as I believed he was. We have an Immortal now joining in the fray as well. Static Defense here for Protoss, though, is powerful. More and more Roaches are popping out of their cocoons, and they'll be rushing across. And I love this little highway with the Overlords, trying to bring those units in as quickly as they can. Slowly but surely, though, the cost efficiency here of the Protoss army is winning out. +2 is coming. We have Blink on the horizon. Shin entirely unupgraded, not going for any Evo Chamber whatsoever. And I think, despite the fact that this was entirely unscouted and about the best case scenario here for Zerg, with more and more Protoss reinforcements being warped in and with Blink finishing up, I think this can very well be holdable. Another Immortal is about to pop. There's the Blink, by the way. Immediately stims after whatever he can hit. Overlord already returning a little bit further home. Backing up again to the safety of the shield batteries. Good micro here by Classic. +2 is now about 20 seconds away. And it's just gonna make these Protoss units hit so freaking hard. I would love to see another Immortal. If he can somehow, some way a 4th one, that would be nice. Okay, so as the dust settles, we did see a bunch of workers killed, but really not as many as Shin was hoping for. He does fire up a 4th hatchery, together with a Baneling Nest. Classic canceling the Nexus there, by the way, was absolutely pivotal. If he did not, I think that would have been game over. Those first 4 storms that he had were so nice. The fact that he killed one of his own pylons, by the way, to continue mining from the assimilator. But the fact that he saw that coming in, Shin was hoping he was going to be able to overwhelm it right from the start. Did not happen. 4th Nexus starts up yet again. Classic with 0 urgency in his play, man. He could try to capitalize on the advantage, but nah. Why bother? Worst case scenario, you have to play late game. I don't think there's enough here for the Zerg, is there? The Corrosive Bowels are landed quite nicely, and at least they're forcing Protoss to back up. But there's just so many Stalkers. I don't think he can break through this. These Stalkers are at +2 attack. Shin doesn't have any upgrades at all, as he decides to rip off the Bandit himself, because Classic is gonna sit. Classic is gonna chill, maybe do a bit of a Stalker poke, but Classic is just gonna add on a Fleet Beacon, go for a 2nd Stargate, build up a Mothership, maybe some Tempest, and then eventually come kill you in 10 minutes, and it's the worst feeling ever for Shin, so he decides to rip off the Band-Aid. Okay, and that takes us to the map Tourmaline. Match point already for Classic. Now, Classic has been playing some very good StarCraft, but is by no means spicy. It is also by no means perfect. But he's just going for tried and true strategies, and they seem to work really well. Now, there are some of those builds as well for Zerg, although not as common for Zerg as they are for Protoss. We see a lot of Zerg players attempting to play that Hydra Lurker-based unit composition. I think, though, that Shin is trying to avoid playing those type of games, mostly because of the late game. I don't believe he wants to play a late game against Classic. Classic has proven time and time again that he is an absolute beast. The only person that seems to be able to kill him in long games is Serral. We saw that at the World Championships of 2025. Serral just took care of that problem, and even though all the other Zerg players were struggling against Skytles, Serral showed us how it's supposed to be done. And while Classic transitioned away from some months after the EWC, he transitioned away from playing that type of late game. I think lately, he's figured out again that, wait a second, no, if I just keep the ball rolling, everybody's absolutely terrified of me. They will have to therefore attack into me in the mid game. What are the options that Zerg have? Well, there's a lot of them, but none of them are terrifying if I just play, well, this strategy or that strategy, right? So it seems to be either charge first or blink first. He sort of has to watch out for any sort of muta transition. Those can catch you off guard. Maybe like a Nidus Worm can be a problem too. Maybe a Queen drop or a Queen March. But as long as Classic has those bases covered, and as long as he actually keeps track of what's going on, and he has the intention of transitioning towards Skytles in the late game eventually, I think Classic is favored pretty much every single time. So, what does Shin want to do now? Where do we go from here? Because the action is very much so on Zerg. You have to now win 4 games in a row against the Protoss player that is ranked #1 on the planet. What do you do? Unsurprisingly, Classic is not making any changes. Stargates, not bad. We can go into some Stalkers. With Blink, maybe triple Oracle to start things off. I think Shin got a little over-eager as well with that attack in the previous game, right? There really wasn't any reason for him to go that deep. Classic is also somebody who's not afraid to play the long macro games. I feel like just in general, a lot of people are a bit hesitant to play the late game just because it's absolutely exhausting. Like, obviously, he's good at playing late game, right? We've already talked about that quite a lot. But Classic is not afraid to play, like, 7 macro games if he needs to. We never really get Grand Finals in StarCraft 2 that are, like, 6 hours long. But if there ever is one, I think it's going to be something like Classic versus Serral, because both of those players are perfectly fine playing all night if they have to. But most pro gamers out there, they fatigue. I know. They like, get tired and stuff. What a crazy idea. Third Nexus is going to fire up here again. About 350. What is going on here with this game? We have 3... Okay, yeah, he does fire it up at 350. Fair enough. We have 3 Adepts mate by Classic, who's now going to move around the site here with Oracle #1. Good enough for Shin. But of course, the nice thing about getting such a quick third Nexus is that you don't really need to deal a lot of damage. Because you already are going to be able to go toe-to-toe. As long as you keep the chrono boost going on your workers, you're going to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Zerg. And this is plenty of Adepts in good locations to deal with this amount of links. If push comes to shove, one of the Oracles can return home. Shin, by the way, only having to deal with 2 of those bad boys for now, and he's actually going to get a kill on 1. I don't really like Classic sacrificing it, but maybe this is going to trigger another all-in from Shin, you know? Usually Zerg players, if you play against a Protoss that gives away their Oracles, at least the odds of Zerg going for another Queen push, they do go through the roof. Classic probably wouldn't mind playing against something like that. Yet again, good old charge. Yet again, good old +1 attack. Yet again, Templar Archives. I think. There is an Overlord moving through.
Your warriors have engaged the enemy.
Oh my god. I forgot about that, Shin. Maybe that's the reason we're losing. Brother, we need to switch to the Loko announcer pack. Clearly. He plays with the Diva announcer. You're all out of minerals, but there's plenty of rocks! Alright, thank you, Diva. I do appreciate that, man. Alright, there's the Temple Archive. So he decided to delay it for a little bit. He wanted to get rid of that Overlord Scout first. No reason to tell your opponent the full story and let them know that you're effectively going charge first. All of this is A-okay here for Classic. It does, of course, mean, though, that Storm will likely be delayed for a while, but you can get some extra Archons out and probably be okay. This is once more an 8-gate, I think, on the back it is. Yep, 8-gate indeed. We add one more into the mix, so this will likely be mostly for Archons. Archons and Zealots. 4th Hatchery in the meantime coming up. We have Banelings as well on the back it is now for Shin, so Banelings together with +1. Skipping out on the Roach Warren. No Hydra Den or anything along those lines yet either, although we have the Spire now done. Or the Lair rather now done, no Spire either, so we're gonna go into the Hydra Den now. Shin droning straight up to 70+. So he doesn't know exactly what he's playing against, but he's playing this as greedy as he dares to. Honestly, those 9 extra workers scare me a little bit. If he's able to mine with them, it's not a problem, but if Classic commits to a very aggressive push, and considering he's gonna have 8 gateways available very soon, I think he could. There we go. Zealot Warpin will begin. No Roach Warren available, right? And that always makes this a bit sketchy. These Lings are, well, at least getting a decent surround, but at this point, Classic doesn't really care about the Adepts anymore, so 4th Hatchery will die pretty much right away. And now we're sitting with 74 drones on 3 mineral lines, which is more drones than you can really efficiently mine with. I'm starting to get a little bit worried here for Shin. Storm, by the way, on the back of this as well. Archons are phenomenal against Banelings. Oh, that was not what you want, Shin, whatsoever. Extreme cost efficiency for Classic. Now, those Banes were much more efficient, of course. But this is really just like the very first push. Like, this is almost like the middle of the pyramid. The Oracles and the Adepts were the foundation. Oh, getting the Prism is a big move, though. But the cherry on top is going to be Psystorm. And if we can get a couple of High Templar out against Hydraling Bane, life is good. Now, shutting down the Prism does make life better. Yes. It's going to force Protoss to retreat. At least it means that Shin can now transfer some of those drones to that 4th hatch and get at least a little bit more mining going. Oh, Classic is not going to go for a follow-up push? Really? He decides to expand in the direction of the Zerg. Pretty much antagonizing him right now. He wants to be neighbors. He's getting all up into Shin's personal space. Photon cannons building up over at the 3rd. Loads of static defense here. Some stasis wards from that Oracle left over. So we may as well use the energy. And we have some of the High Templar now available too. Soon they will have... This one already has it. They will have energy for Psy Storms. I honestly don't mind this here at all for Classic. Like, he could even move out. He can kind of push in here and then go back to the safety of the shield batteries. Kind of storm his retreat. Shin doesn't know. He's going to scout this out right about... No, never mind. I thought he was going to continue pushing. Decides to send a Ling in instead. Yeah, and this is going to be really annoying for Shin.
Looks like we're going to the late game.
Looks like we're going to the late game, Diva? I don't know about that, man. I think he really wants to go for something like Lurkers. Lurker Brute Lord would be phenomenal here, but we are miles away from that spot. Classic, by the way, has no reason to attack here. Like, there isn't a good reason other than maybe him wanting to get the series over with, but it does feel risky. I think this is a situation where you kind of want to keep tabs on the Zerg and make sure they're not allowed to go Lurkers, but there's very little reason to do this. Okay, maybe this is what Shin can actually come back with, though. Whew. Classic now sees it, decides to back up. Look at the amount of static defense. You're not gonna break this with Banelings. Like, you need about 200 Banelings to break this, and Shin does not have the money for that at all. He does make a lot more, though. Oh, hold up. He just made an additional 17 Banes. He already has 33. Banelings are 50 minerals, 25 gas each. And... I mean, he's pretending like he won the Zerg lottery here, but he really hasn't. Classic's economy is arguably better than that of Zerg. Okay, here we go. Shin is gonna go for one attack for all the marbles, and the storms are gonna be preemptive. I think it's good. Yeah, just storm. Just make sure they have to roll through it. There's another storm needed. Perfect, perfect. Run, 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 your High Templar. I mean, I don't think that could have really gone much better for Protoss than that. Keep in mind, he still has 8 gateways, so he can warp in 8 Zealots at a time, and he decides to push forward with those. More Templar available. I think these are the ones that were previously guarding the third. No longer needed. Hydra's pushed themselves into a corner. Classic just murdered the Zerg yet again. Wildly different strategy this time around from Shin. But Classic is a beast. Yeah, recalling to his own mothership was a bit clumsy. Yeah, leading the High Templar into a bailing attack. That was sloppy. But across the board, Classic is playing some phenomenal StarCraft 2. And just like that, he wins the Grand Finals of the Wardi Championship 4-0. So after Shin took him down in the upper bracket finals, I think that series was actually played on the same day, or the same day rather. I think Classic must have just taken a moment and thought it through and decided that he needs to change this, and that. Game number 1, though, really was the key. The fact that he blindly countered Mutalisks, I think it completely set Shin off. And then obviously in the second game, Shin decided to go for that weird Hydra Ling opener without Banelings, without Roaches. Trying to first off, like, cut a corner, right? Because if you get attacked in the mid-game early on, you kind of just die because you have no splash damage, you have no Roaches. So if it's like a Glaive to Death push, you're just in a world of trouble. And then following the Hydra Ling up with Mutas, he took so many chances that game, didn't work at all. And from there, Classic just had the series in the bag. Very well done. 4-0 wins in finals are very uncommon these days.